Blaze one up with the Smoke Gang. It's your boy Street Smoke TV, and this here is the original Gangsta Legendz Part 1. And today OG is Danny Greene, A.K.A. the Irishman, and also known as Mr. Patrick. And this guy is definitely the first well-known gangster out of Cleveland, Ohio. And this is his story, and this is definitely his legend. Now, Danny Greene was born on November 14th, 1933, and was an Italian-American mobster and the associate of the Cleveland crime family mobster John Nardi during the gang war for the city's criminal operation during the 1970s. Now, John Nardi's criminal crime family and Danny Greene's gang set off more than 75 bombs competing against each other, most attached to cars and houses, and murder attempts. A lot of them were successful. Greene had gained power first in a local chapter of the International Longshoremen's Association, also known as the ILA, where he was elected president in the early 1960s. Greene pushed into Cleveland rackets and began competing with local families of the Italian Mafia and the Sicilian Mafia. He set up his own group called the CELTIC Club and competed with and had it complete with enforcers. Now, Greene was born in Cleveland, Ohio, to the parents of John and Irene Greene, who was a young couple that got married in Cleveland. And it's so crazy because a popular local Cleveland legend tells that Danny Greene was the son of an Irish Catholic immigrants, but his parents were native born in the United States, and his ancestors on both sides were ethnic Irish. Now, after Danny Greene was born, 3 days later, his mother died because of the birth, and they named Danny Greene Baby Greene until his mother was buried. Then after that, his father had named the boy Daniel after his own father. Now, John Greene was a heavy drinker and lost his job as a salesman for Fuller Brush. He moved in temporarily with his father, a newspaper printer, who had also been recently widowed and unable to provide for Daniel. His father placed the boy in Palmerdale, a Roman Catholic orphanage in Parma, Ohio, 3 miles outside of Cleveland. Now, in 1939, Daniel's father began dating a nurse and married her. They started their own family and brought Daniel home. At age 6, he resented his stepmother and went away on several occasions. His paternal grandfather took the boy in, and Daniel lived with him and an aunt for the rest of his childhood. And when his father died in 1959, the newspaper obituary listed his children from his second marriage, but did not mention Daniel. And at St. Jerome Catholic School, Daniel Greene developed a great fondness for the nuns and the priests. He developed a lasting friendship with some of the teachers and served as an altar boy. An athletic boy, he excelled in baseball and was an all-star basketball player. Although Greene was a poor student, the nuns at St. Jerome let him play sports because he was valuable for the team. Greene attended St. Ignatius High School and had frequent fights with Italian American students. Most of the children were recent immigrants struggling for a place in the world. And Daniel developed an intense dislike for Italians that lasted his entire life. Now, after being expelled from St. Ignatius, he transferred to Collinwood High School, where he also excelled in athletics. And a Boy Scout for a short time, he was kicked out of his troops. And he was expelled from his high school due to excessive tardiness, which he claimed was caused by the bullying of fellow students. Now, as an adult, Greene stood 5'10" and was self-conscious about his personal appearance. He pursued physical fitness, lifting weights and jogging, and as he became older, he quit smoking and drinking. He followed a rigid diet of fish, vegetables, and vitamin supplements. Greene was a devoted animal lover and owned 2 pet cats. He had a habit of putting out food for the birds and squirrels. While some claim Greene privately disliked Italians, he actually collaborated with many Italian Americans in business and criminal interests, notably Nicole Seminole's grandfather. Expelled from high school in 1951, Greene had enlisted in the United States Marines, where he was soon noticed for his abilities as a boxer and marksman. He trained at the Marine Corps base in Jacksonville, North Carolina. He was transferred many times, possibly because of his behavioral issues. Promoted to the rank of corporal in 1953, Greene taught new recruits how to be artillerymen. He was honorably discharged later that year. Now, in the early 1960s, Greene worked steadily as a longshoreman at the Cleveland docks, years before the work was unionized by the ILA Association, also known as the International Longshoremen Association. In his free time, he read about Ireland and the bad history. He began to think of himself as a Celtic warrior. Some writers have speculated that reading about such warriors inspired his criminal ambitions. Now, in 1961, the president of the local union was removed from office by the ILA, and Greene was chosen to serve as interim president. He handily won the next election. Once president, Greene had the union office painted green to represent his Irish ethnicity, and he also installed thick green carpeting. He was also known to drive a green car, wear green jackets, and often handed out green ink pens. And while he was in office, he raised taxes due 25% and pushed workers to perform volunteer, providing a building fund. Those who refused often found themselves losing work. He fired more than 50 members while denouncing them as winos and bums to other workers. Greene led violent protests and strikes to force the company to allow the ILA to oversee the hirings of dock workers from the ships on a temporary basis and turn their paychecks over to Greene. Some said to have been collected to build a union hall. Most of the funds ended up in Greene's personal bank account anyway. An unidentified ILA member would later recall about Greene that he imagined himself as a tough dock boss, but he was 30 years too late. He used workers to beat up other union members who did not come in line, but he was never seen fighting himself. He was a spellbinding speaker and a good organizer. Threatened to murder the 2 children of one owner. The FBI put the man's house and family under protection. After Sam Marshall, an investigative reporter, collected affidavits that supported charges of extortion, Greene was exiled from the union and convicted of embezzlement. The conviction was later overturned on appeal. Rather than face a second trial, he pleaded guilty to the lesser charge of falsifying union records. and was fined $10,000 and received a suspended sentence. Afterward, he did not pay the fine or receive any prison time. After returning to his rackets, Greene met and befriended Teamsters boss Louis Triscaro. He introduced Greene to Jimmy Hoffa. After the friendly meeting, Hoffa later reported said to Triscaro, "Stay away from that guy. There's something wrong with him." Marty McCann of the Organized Crime Division of the FBI recruited Greene as an informant. He became a top A.k.A. confidential informant. Greene passed along information to the FBI, but only that which suited his personal needs and would not hurt those close to him. His code name was Mr. Patrick, a reflection of his Irish pride. It was his confirmation name and that of his beloved Irish saint. Protected by his informant status, Greene increased his criminal activities. By 1964, the members of the union were fed up with Greene's behavior. The plain dealer began writing a 9-part investigative series about him. This series brought Greene unwanted attention from the U.S. Attorney, the IRS, the Labor Department, and the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor. The IOLA began its own investigation and soon removed Greene from office. Eventually, Greene was convicted in federal court of embezzling almost $12,000 in union funds, as well as 2 counts of falsifying records. The verdict was overturned by an appeals court, and federal prosecutors finally settled for Greene's guilty plea to 2 misdemeanor charges. He was fined $10,000, but paid only a fraction of it. Some think that his FBI connections worked to lessen his punishment. Greene started working for the Cleveland Solid Waste Trade Guild, where he was hired to keep the peace. Impressed with his abilities, mobster Alexander BIRNS hired him as an enforcer for his various numbers operations. The Cleveland family underboss Frank Baccato used Greene and other Irish American gangsters to act as errand boys and as muscle to enforce the mafia influence during the 1960s over the garbage hauling contracts and other rackets until his death in 1973. Brancato reported regretting bringing Greene into the mob due to the damage Greene did. In May 1968, under Byron's orders, Greene was supposed to attack a black numbers man who was holding out protection money due. Unfamiliar with the military-style detonator, Greene barely made it out of his car before the bomb exploded. He told the police a story and survived being thrown nearly 20 feet, although hearing in his right ear was damaged permanently for life. In the future, Greene will only trust professionals to handle bombs for him. Big Mike Fratto broke away from the guild and founded the more legitimate trade group called the Cuyahoga County Refuse Haulers Association. A legitimate businessman, he protested Greene bringing mob involvement and strong-arm tactics to the guild, although he had his own connections. The Cleveland Solid Waste Trade Guild fell apart shortly thereafter. In 1971, Fratto's car was destroyed by a bomb. Inside was found the accomplice of Greene named Art Snipperger. Snipperger had allegedly been careless with the bomb he was planting, and Fratto was across the street. The previous September, Greene directed Snipperger to fix a bomb on Fratto's car, but Snipperger had second thoughts and informed Fratto's of Greene's plan. Snipperger had also been a police informant and revealed everything to Sergeant Edward Kovacic of the Cleveland Police Intelligence Unit, including Greene's status as a top A.k.A. FBI informant. Some investigators believe the explosion was an accident caused by a radio signal, possibly from a short-wave radio or a passing police car. Others pose that Byron and Greene arranged Snipperger's death after learning of his informant status. Sergeant Kovacic was told by an underground source that Greene had pushed the detonator, killing Snipper instantly, allegedly. The case was never officially solved. On November 26, 1971, Fratto was shot and killed at Cleveland White City Beach. Greene was arrested and interrogated. He admitted to the killing but claimed self-defense. He said Fratto had fired 3 shots while Greene was jogging and exercising his dogs, and he fired back once. The evidence seemed to corroborate Greene's story, and he was released. Cleveland police later learned Fratto was armed and had an opportunity to kill Greene several weeks prior to the White Beach shooting. During their partnership, Greene and Fratto had become so close that they had named sons after each other. Not long afterward, Greene again found himself a target while jogging in White City Beach. A sniper concealed several hundred feet away fired several shots at Greene from a rifle. Instead of ducking to the ground, Greene pulled out his revolver and started shooting. While running towards his would-be assassin, the sniper fled and was never positively identified. Investigators learned that this attempt was part of a murder contract left by BIRNS. Greene left his wife and their 3 children for their own safety and moved to Collinwood, where he rented an apartment. And a journalist named Ned Whelan wrote about Greene, imagining himself as a funeral baron. He supported a number of destitute Collinwood families, paid tuition to Catholic schools for various children, and like the gangsters of the 20s, actually had 50 20-pound turkeys delivered to needy households on Thanksgiving. He often picked up restaurant tabs for friends, his neighbors, and his acquaintances, and left generous tips. Greene evicted a bookmaker who operated out of a small Waterloo business and kept a local bar in order by personal visits. When a rowdy group of Hell's Angels moved into Collinwood, Greene visited their headquarters with a stick of dynamite. He threatened to light it and throw it into their clubhouse until they came out to hear his warning to keep things quiet while they were staying in Collinwood. Now, while this was going on and while he was building up, he also formed his own crew of young Irish American gangsters called the CELTIC Club. His main enforcers were Keith Ritson, Kevin McTaggart, Brian O'Donnell, Danny Greene Jr., and Billy McDuffie, who set up gambling dens across the city. He also allied with John Nardi, a Cleveland family labor racketeer who wanted to overthrow the leadership. Underworld crime figures note that James Ice Pick Sterling, a gun and explosive expert, is to believe to have almost 60 contract killings under his belt, but was never arrested or questioned in any of the Cleveland bombings. Retired after Greene's 1977's death, Sterling moved to Troy, Michigan. The relationship between Greene's and BIRNS began to sour. Greene had asked BIRNS for a loan of $75,000 to set up a cheat spot, a speakeasy and gambling house. BIRNS arranged for it through the Gambino crime family. The money was lost in the hands of BIRNS courier Billy Cox, who purchased cocaine. The police raided his house, arrested him, seized the narcotics, and left the $75,000. Damn, that's crazy. The Gambino family wanted their money. SHONDER pressed Greene, who flatly refused to return it, reminding him that he returned something he never received and that BIRNS courier had lost it. To settle the dispute, BIRNS directed an associate to hire a hitman for Greene and gave him $25,000 for the job, especially in the event of any harm befalling him. Several minor underworld characters, burglars by trade, took the contract, but made numerous failed assassination attempts on Greene. Not long after, Greene found the unexploded bomb in his car when he pulled up into a Collinwood service gas station. The explosive was wired improperly and failed to detonate. Greene disassembled the bomb himself, removed the dynamite, and brought the rest of the package to a policeman, Edward Kovacic. Kovacic offered him police protection. but he refused. He refused to hand over the bomb, telling him, "I'm going to send this back to the old bastard that sent it to me." Suspecting that BIRNS was behind it, Greene decided to retaliate. On March 29th, 1975, Holy Saturday, the eve of Easter, BIRNS was blown up by a bomb containing C4, a potent military explosive, in the lot behind Christie's Lounge, the former Jack and Jill West Lounge, a go-go spot on 25th and Detroit Ave near Malachi's Church. On May 12th, an explosion rocked Collinwood. Greene's building was destroyed, but the man had only minor injuries. As the second floor fell, he was shielded from the debris by a refrigerator that had lodged against a wall. In 1975, Greene began to push into the vending machine racket, traditionally controlled by the Mafia, as well as muscling into gambling operations. The Cleveland family leadership was angry, especially the soldier Thomas Sanito. He thought Greene was an extortionist due to the excessive fees he charged for coin-operated laundry contracts. Greene controlled some of the more lucrative laundry contracts that Sanito wanted. Sanito and mob soldier Jeff LeCabachi murdered one of Greene's associates. Greene had dynamite wired to the frame of Sanito's car, but Sanito found the bomb, removed and disarmed it, and later destroyed it. In Greene's competition with the Mafia to build the vending machine empire, John Conti became a victim. Conti owned a vending machine company, but worked as a rope man for another one. On the day of his disappearance, Conti told his wife he had a meeting with Greene. That was the last time she saw him, as he had been beaten, and his corpse was discovered a few days later in a dump site in Austintown. The police investigators theorized that Conte was beaten to death in Greene's trailer and his body later transported to Austintown. They found some physical evidence, but Greene was never charged with Conte murder. In 1976, longtime mobster John Scalish died, leaving control of the Cleveland lucrative criminal operations, specifically to the City Teamster Union locals, up for grabs. Scalish appointed James T. Liccavalli as his successor, but other mobsters such as John Nardi challenged him for the leadership of the organization. With the assistance of Greene, within weeks, Nardi had many of Liccavalli's supporters killed. That included Liccavalli's underboss, Leo Lips McCurry. The Cleveland family enforcer, Eugene the Animal Chiasio, was also seriously injured and sidelined for several months by a car bomb. Soon after, a bomb planted in Alfred Ali Calabrese's car killed the innocent man, Frank Piercio of Collinwood, and he died while moving Calabrese's leaking Continental before driving his own car out their shared driveway. This began a long-standing war between Liccavalli, Cleveland crime family, and the Greene CELTIC Club. In 1976 alone, 36 bombs exploded around the Cleveland area, which was soon given the moniker Bomb City, USA. The ATF tripled its staffing in Northeast Ohio in order to handle the bomb investigations. A suspect bomb maker, Martin Hatman, was arrested, but released for the lack of evidence. According to the Kill the Irishman by Rick Perillo, Greene killed at least 8 of the Mafia hitmen that was sent to assassinate him, using bombs or bullets. Now, after the failed Waterloo Avenue bombing, Greene played up to the stories of the Mafia failed assassination attempts to his benefit. His bravado and flamboyant behavior only added to his growing aura of invincibility and power in the urban legends of the Cleveland criminal underworld. He granted interviews to local television stations. For a newspaper photographer, he posed proudly in front of a boarded up window of his destroyed apartment building during a television interview. Greene said to one television reporter, The luck of Irish is with me, and I have a message for those yellow maggots. That includes the payers and the doers. The doers are the people who carried out the bombing. They have to be eliminated because the people who paid them can't afford to have them remain alive. And the payers are going to feel great heat from the FBI and local authorities. And let me clear something else up. I didn't run away from the explosion. Someone said they saw me running away. I walked away. And in response to the reporter's assertion that, like a cat, Greene had 9 lives, Greene said, I am an Irish Catholic. I believe the guy upstairs pulls the strings, and you're not going to go until he says so. It just says it wasn't my time. In another television interview, he denied any knowledge of the underworld war. He said, I have no axe to grind, but if those maggots and these so-called mafias want to come after me, I'm over here by the CELTIC club. I'm not hard to find. On May 17, 1977, Greene's longtime ally John Nardi was killed by a bomb planted by Pascal's sister Nino and Ronald Carabia. After Nardi was murdered, Mafia boss James Liccavalli arranged a ceasefire with Greene, hoping to kill the other man off guard. Shortly after their meeting, Greene muscled in on a large West Side gambling operation originally ran by Nardi. Greene offered Liccavalli a percentage, but it was declined. On October 6, 1977, Greene went to a dental appointment at the Brainerd Place office building in Lyndhurst, Ohio. Members of the Mafia had tapped his phone and were aware of this visit. After Greene visited the dentist and left the office building, he approached his car. The automobile parked next to his exploded, killing Greene instantly. The car bomb was believed to have been planted by a hitman known as Ray Ferrito. This all led to the Mafia Commission trial, which put Mafia families near 5 New York families: the Gambino crime family, the Genovese crime family, the Colombo crime family, the Lucchese crime family, the Bonanno crime family, and numerous families from all over the United States on trial. The trial practically ended the existence of the Cleveland Mafia. Now, what I want to say is that we want to say rest in peace to the legend, to the gangster of Danny Greene, A.k.A. the Irishman. And what I want to say is, what we can learn from Danny Greene is that you can never be too big, because at the end of the day, something can always bring you back down to earth. Something can always knock you off your high horse and off your pedestal. When you got that type of power and that type of influence, you gotta do better and you gotta do positivity. But you know, it is what it is. You live, you learn, and we just wanna say we gonna respect the gangster of Danny Greene, A.k.A. the Irishman, because at the end of the day, the man stood 10 toes and he died and what he believed in. The man once said, if you live by the bomb, you die by the bomb. And that's exactly what he lived by. This is your boy Street Smoke TV. I appreciate y'all for tuning in to my first original Gangsta Legendz Part 1. And y'all be safe Y'all stay dangerous, and I'll see y'all in the next upload.